The English in the New World had been around for a long time by 1649. The English felt at home in the New World, in New England, Maryland, and Virginia. They were sure they would feel at home in Delaware as well. As early as 1496, the Englishman, John Cabot, was in explore unknown land. He reached America, but no settlement was established. During the reign of Elizabeth I, England began to think seriously about colonizing the new land of America. In 1607, the colony at Jamestown in Virginia was founded, and the other settlements followed soon after. The English were quick to plant their feet firmly in American soil, and they did not overlook Delaware. In fact, they named it. Without ever going ashore, Captain Samuel Argall in 1610 christened the bay, river, and mainland with the name of the Jamestown governor, Lord Delaware. From time to time, in the years that followed, the English did attempt to come ashore in Delaware, but they found the local Indians disagreeable. Many an Englishman lost his clothes, supplies, and frequently his scalp to the Indians. While English traders continued to wander into Delaware, other nations took more definite steps. The Dutch colony at Zwanendel existed and then disappeared. The Swedish built Fort Christina, New Sweden, and settled down to stay. Peter Stuyvesant of New Netherlands began to lose his temper with the Swedish. The English looked on, planning and taking their time. In 1649, the English announced their intention of colonizing Delaware. Their settlers were ready to move. This was at the time when both the Swedish and the Dutch claimed ownership of Delaware, and a strong objection reached the English from New Netherlands. Peter Stuyvesant.
I will not have it. The Dutch are the legal owners of Delaware, and the English must stay out.
The Swedish, who were in Delaware at the time, might have had a few words to say too, but the English did not give them a chance.
Heading for the Delaware? Yeah. Wasting your time, friend. Blasted Dutch won't let you settle here. I'm heading out myself.
Obedient to Stuyvesant, they did not press into Delaware. Neither did they stop thinking about it. To the English settlers of Virginia, Maryland, and New England, Delaware became a dream. A dream of mild climate, of abundant game, rich soil. The settlers of New England tried again to move into Delaware, but their ship stopped briefly at New Netherlands, and again they ran into trouble with Peter Stuyvesant. He arrested all of them and released them only when they had promised in writing to go back to New England.
If you ever again attempt to sail the Delaware, we will seize and keep all of your possessions. Furthermore, you will all be sent as prisoners to Holland.
Stuyvesant made his point. Again, the English turned back without giving trouble. But they kept thinking about Delaware. During the next few years, the Dutch succeeded in driving the Swedish out of Delaware. They reoccupied their fort, Casimir, and changed its name to New Amstel. The Swedish no longer were a problem, but the English worried them. There were rumors that the English would not give up on Delaware, and the power and determination of the English were well known to the Dutch. For years past, the Dutch and the English had been bitter rivals in trading and in the whaling industry. Both England and Holland were great seafaring nations with equal skill and power upon the water. Each respected the other. and the Delaware Dutch had good reason to worry about Englishmen moving into their territory. In the fall of 1657, the Dutch in New Amstel heard that the Indians had captured a group of white men in the southern part of the territory. Curious, the Dutch ransomed the captives and had them brought to New Amstel. The 14 men were English.
You are Englishmen. What were you doing on Dutch soil? Well?
Sir, the savages made us prisoners, then stole all our supplies.
You were captured on Dutch territory. Why were you here?
Why, sir? We're escaping from Virginia, where we were servants. We have run away from our masters.
Perhaps you lie.
Oh, I assure you not.
They might easily be lying. Who knows why they are here? They must get word to Peter Stuyvesant.
It is perfectly clear. These men are advanced scouts from the English of Virginia. They are preparing to invade the Delaware. Listen then, you are never and under no circumstances to ever receive again any one of the English nation.
The Delaware Dutch were panic-stricken at the thought of an English invasion. The English had tried to enter from Virginia and from New England. To the west, the settlers of Lord Baltimore's Maryland were beginning to edge toward Delaware. The Dutch began to collect weapons and prepare to fight. They felt they must be ready to meet the English at any point. England as a nation made no comment. One of the rumors was partly true. In 1659, English soldiers from Maryland, led by Colonel Nathaniel Uty, came to visit New Amstel. They did not come as an invasion, but they did intend to upset the Dutch, all 5 of them. For 3 days, Uty and his men wandered about the area, showing complete scorn for poor little New Amstel and its people. They acted as if Delaware belonged to them, and they managed to frighten the wits out of the Dutch.
There are so few of you. We thought the Dutch had more settlers than this. If you were invaded, you'd be killed. If, for instance, Maryland should invade you, how would you protect yourselves? If you were wise people, you'd leave this dangerous place and come and live under English protection in Maryland.
Uty and his 4 assistants so alarmed New Amstel that its settlers began to desert the town in increasing numbers. Many of them ran to Maryland, eager to be linked with what looked like the winning side. There were considerably fewer Dutch in Delaware, and the English were pleased by this. For the next 5 years, the Delaware Dutch had more problems than they could really handle. First, there were the Indians. The local tribes, which had been fairly peaceable, were getting more and more unfriendly, and the outbreak of smallpox among them in 1661 did nothing to improve their dispositions.
Indians again.
When the Indians were not battling one another, they turned against the colonists and were a real danger. It was enough to make the Dutch extremely nervous. In addition to the Indian violence, there was disease among the Dutch. There was shortage of food. And then there was the nagging fear of England. The English were up to something. The Dutch were sure of that.
The British.
And they were right. The rival mother countries, England and Holland, had for a long time been on the verge of a serious disagreement. Much trouble had to do with the American colonies. The English, who had waited and watched for so long, were about to get very angry.
Those blasted Dutch are ruining our colonial trade and reducing our national income. We've been patient quite long enough.
This trade rivalry with the Dutch is a most grave matter. Even our colonies are not above trading with Holland.
Gentlemen, perhaps a war would solve the matter.
If England should seize the Dutch-owned land in America, England would possess the entire eastern coast of America. A war could be highly profitable for the English. There was no real declaration of war against Holland. In the summer of 1664, the English fleet headed for New Netherlands. When Stuyvesant found out about it, it was too late to prepare a good defense. English ships blockaded the harbor at New Amsterdam. The Dutch, confused and poorly organized, were inclined to surrender. But Peter Stuyvesant stubbornly refused to give up. But after a 10-day attack, Stuyvesant and the Dutch were forced to admit defeat. Just as he had ruined Johan Prince and destroyed New Sweden, Stuyvesant himself was finally beaten. His adopted home, New Amsterdam, became New York. Shortly afterward, the English entered Delaware. This time, they came as an invasion. They poured into New Amstel, meeting only a little resistance. It was not neatly done. Some Dutch settlers were killed, and against orders, the soldiers sacked the town. The worst had happened to the Delaware Dutch. The English had indeed invaded. England had watched carefully and bided her time, and England was victorious. When the Delaware settlement was taken, the Dutch lost their one remaining colony in America. New Amstel, the little settlement which had been both Dutch and Swedish, changed its name for one final time. It became English, Newcastle. The English had named Delaware. The Dutch and Swedish had invaded and battled to possess it. Now the English owned it. They were the last of the invaders.